T watches a scary movie. I'm T. We're talking scary movies, and tonight we are talking Rob Zombie's 2022 The Munsters. That's right. We all heard about this for the last year or so, that Rob Zombie was making an adaptation of the popular TV series The Munsters, which has had a number of revivals and kind of sequel series over the last few decades. Even most recently, a TV film pilot that was made for NBC called Mockingbird Lane, starring Ezzy Izzard and Jerry O'Connell. That and Portia de Rossi, that didn't get past the pilot, but we're actually going to be reviewing that one coming up as well too. But we're here to talk Rob Zombie's new film that he wrote and directed. Now, right off the back, let's get something clear here. We saw the trailer. We saw kind of the production stills and everything, and there's a lot of, not controversy. Controversy is not the right word, but I think this was kind of the project for folks that they're officially either staying on that Rob Zombie bandwagon, or they're officially getting off. And I think it's a number of things, because if you think about a lot of the more recent Rob Zombie projects that we've gone, some folks would argue that the quality has definitely gone down. You know, we got House of a Thousand Corpses, and we got Devil's Rejects, we got The Legend of El Superbeasto, we got Lords of Salem. And then things just kind of started taking a bit of a turn. You know, we got Halloween, but then we had Halloween 2, which I enjoy Halloween 2, actually. Which is weird, because back when it came out, I absolutely preferred the first Halloween to Halloween 2. And now I actually am vice versa on that. I think Halloween 2 is much, much more interesting now. You can't really look past the fact that that Rob Zombie is a very polarizing, is probably going to be the right word to use in this case. He's a very polarizing filmmaker, and his movies are either very much for you or they're not. And you kind of know what you're going to get with them. For example, I really enjoyed 31. I think 31 has some charm to it, honestly. It's dark, it's gritty, and it still actually seems more in line with something like House of a Thousand Corpses, which is my favorite out of the Firefly Trilogy. But then we got 3 from Hell, and 3 from Hell, unfortunately, just seemed to be, we're not talking budget, but it just seemed to be a downshift in quality from the high point of the Devil's Rejects, which, even though I think House of a Thousand Corpses is better, Devil's Rejects is one of the best films of the 2000s. So his quality has been kind of all over the place. And you could actually kind of look at the Munsters as being more of a safer bet for him, because it's an established property to where he doesn't have to bring in his own characters and things like that. People know the Munsters, or at least some people are aware of the Munsters. I grew up in the time when Munsters reruns were being shown all the time back in the 90s. You know, they're not really anywhere to be seen anymore, but back in the 90s, Munsters reruns were on all the time. And again, they did a number of revivals for it as well, too. So it's not like this is a property that folks don't know. So it's a very safe bet for him, because maybe he could win a lot of people back. And I think that is both the strength as well as the weakness of this film. First, the approach he took to it, it's not like what I think is the pinnacle of TV to movie adaptations in the Brady Bunch movie. I think that is the literal blueprint for how you take something so old and you adapt it to a modern audience. Taking the Brady Bunch from their 70s roots and keeping them in the 70s, but you put them in the 90s it was so amazing. That film still cracks me up to this day. There are jokes that I didn't get as a kid. I loved it as a kid. There are jokes I didn't get as a kid that I only got in the last 10 to 15 years now that makes so much more sense. It's an absolutely fantastic adaptation. But there are other ones that have not worked out so well. We've pulled TV series into movie territory, and it doesn't really adapt itself to film so well there. And so I think the question really is how Rob Zombie was going to approach this. Was this going to be something like the Brady Bunch, to where we're taking the Munsters from, where they're originally set, and we're just putting them into 2022. So now it's the Munsters, put against today's culture and everything. Or is this going to be a case to where it's like Mockingbird Lane, to where we're taking a story
is be
that
back in this
we
one as
know,
well too,
or at least we're somewhat
but
familiar with,
and y'all can see
we're now
the clips I'm putting up here for
culture.
it. You gotta
And
go
it's
and watch
interesting
this
because
full
it's neither of
trailer
those
because
things.
we only really have
This
a couple weeks and then this
actually
bad boy
is
is coming
set
out
in
and it's about
the
to wreck
original
some
world
fucking
of
lives,
the
y'all.
actual
I've
Munsters.
already
This
said
is
that.
actually set
I'm not ready for
back
it. I'm
in
ready.
the 60s, basically. And for that, I think that's actually a very inspired and very, very brilliant choice with it, honestly. Because Mockingbird Lane kind of proved that even with a higher budget than what, they were given back then, and with, today's effects and the things that we can do, that I guess people just weren't really digging it, or at least NBC executives weren't digging it. I personally liked it, honestly. But Mockingbird Lane proved that, if we take the Munsters and try to adapt it to today, you have to change a lot about what worked about it. And the Munsters, above all else, is a family sitcom, which is the bread and butter of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Family sitcoms were the thing, and that's why it works. So if you take that out and kind of make it instead, now it actually is scary and it is a bit monstrous and everything, you lose, I guess, that original fan base. And I think Rob Zombie thought that he loves this property so much, why can't I just set it in this original universe? And honestly, that does work really well. It works well for the aesthetic of it, because then, to me, honestly, it doesn't come off as low budget, because I think that's one of the things that everybody was worried about when they saw that first trailer, that this looked like somebody took like $1,000 and just filmed like, an indie film or something like that. And when you see it, it definitely looks better than the trailer pointed out, and that's the way it is with a lot of early trailers. Stuff isn't finished, money hasn't exactly been put in to smooth things over and stuff like that. But this is absolutely set back in the 60s. This is 100% a prequel to the Munsters show as we know. And I think that's the best idea that Zombie could have done, because it allows him to focus on a smaller cast of characters. We're only focusing on Herman, Lily, and Grandpa, or the Count. And we're not really getting the kids in this here. And I honestly, it's the right idea. It's the best way to go with it, because he doesn't have to worry about adapting anything for modern audiences. But the problem is that because it lives in the 60s, Zombie took that to heart, and everything is 60s about it, including the humor, which unfortunately, I have to say, kind of falls flat. I think for modern audiences, it's going to be hard for a lot of people to watch this and really get a laugh out of it, really get like, that's all fun. I remember that. Yeah, that's a good reference there. I don't know if that's going to happen. And weirdly enough, for a Rob Zombie film, I think that big fans of the Munsters are actually really, really going to enjoy this. They're really going to, because it's very slapstick. It's very family sitcom humor. It's very much the opposite of what we have seen Rob Zombie do his entire career. And quite honestly, I'm going to give the man credit for that, because it's a big gamble. And I understand that it's not for me. I'm not the target audience for this movie, and that's okay, because as we know, Rob Zombie makes his own movies. Is a lot like Robert Rodriguez, to where basically, like they make a movie, but a lot of times they're making it for themselves, and all the hallmarks are there, including like a lot of the actors that Rob Zombie is known to work with: Jeff Daniel Phillips, Daniel Roebuck, Richard Brake, and of course Sherry Moon Zombie is featured as well too. Dee Wallace is in there. We get Cassandra Peterson, Elvira's in this, and even Butch Patrick. Oh God, Eddie Munster. That's right, Eddie Munster. Butch Patrick comes back to play a role in this film as well too. And again, my negative, the negatives I have about it is just that I really don't think it works well for modern audiences. Like, if you were going to show this to somebody who didn't know who the Munsters were, I don't know if this is going to get them into the Munsters. Matter of fact, I'm pretty positive it wouldn't get them into it, because it's really like Rob Zombie made a 60s film today. And it's so weird, because if we could look at a lot of movies that are set in the 60s to get made in today's age, but that's kind of the point of it, is that like they set everything the right way it's supposed to be. And not that Zombie doesn't, but it's very clear who this film was made for. This movie was absolutely made for Munsters fans. And that's alienating for sure to anybody that is not just a die-hard Munsters fan. And the plot of which, it's very simple, is that we're following the original meeting and pairing and wedding of Herman and Lily. And, you know, Lily, kind of fun, at the beginning of the film, Lily's been on a string of bad dates, and Grandpa, the Count, has been trying to make a number of suitors for her, which she doesn't want, to where Lily even has a date with Count Orlok, Nosferatu, which I thought was really fucking cool, honestly. And Richard Brake plays a mad scientist who is responsible for the creation of Herman Munster. And Herman gains notoriety and fame after he goes on a late night Johnny Carson type of show, to where he shows that he has this old school humor, which again, something that comes directly from the TV show there, and then goes on to become a punk rocker, which again makes sense given the time frame and everything as well too. And all of that works absolutely splendidly. And then Herman and Lily get together, and Grandpa's conspiring against to try to stop it from happening. And then also we have Lester Munster, Lily's brother, the Wolfman, who is has a plot in action to get the Munsters home, because right now they all live in Transylvania. And of course, as we know, the Munsters is set in Mockingbird's Heights, or Mockingbird Lane specifically. So we have to get them from Transylvania over to the States, and that's really the crux of this movie. Now, I think the downside here is that even for being based on a sitcom, like when you have a 30-minute like sitcom, and I guess that's really like 22 to 23 minutes, honestly, there's still some kind of plot behind it that's driving like that episode. Like, oh no, like we didn't get our homework done. What are we gonna do? Oh no, I failed this test. What are we gonna do? I got fired from work. Where am I getting a new job? Like stuff like that. And those are like the problems that we addressed. There wasn't really a problem in this movie. Like, the problem pops up kind of close to the end of the film at that point, and it can't really be there to exist as like the setting or like what drives everything in this movie forward. The movie really is based around Herman and Lily, and I'm not saying that there has to be an obstacle for the two of them to overcome or anything. But I don't know, it just kind of seems like if we're going for that sitcom feel, if this really is going to be set in the world of the Munsters, then I feel there just should have been something else behind it, also pushing the action, the drama, whatever, for the plot of the story itself. But the majority of it is just showing us Herman and Lily enjoying each other and marital bliss, dating bliss, all of that. So, beyond that, again, I have to say that, like I mentioned before, this is not your Rob Zombie trademark film. There are no scares in this at all. But what is interesting is that it seems very much influenced as well from other works like Creepshow and Beetlejuice. And that might just be in terms of certain camera shots and lighting. But like there definitely seems to be some kind of a camp feel that goes right in line with Beetlejuice and with Creepshow as well. I'm interested if y'all pick that up when you watch it. Let me know that in the comments. And of course, we finish off the film with the tribute to the original intro of the Munsters, with again Grandpa, Herman, and Lily, with the original theme song and everything coming out of the house. Now, I will say, for as much not bad press, but as much as people are worried about this movie, it's not a bad movie if you're a Munsters fan. And I get it. Like, if you make a movie, it should be a movie that everybody can watch, but not really. That's kind of the point of like certain genres and everything as well too. I again think that if you're a fan of the Munsters, it's going to be pretty hard not to enjoy this, because it is the prequel to the TV series. That's legitimately what this movie is. It's set in that universe. It's set in that world. These are the same characters that are walking around in the original TV show. So if you like the show, I think you really will enjoy this movie. If you're not a fan of the show, then there's not much in here to drag you in. And if you are a fan of the show and you saw this and you didn't like it, I'm curious as to why you didn't. Because like I said, I've watched the Munsters in my lifetime, and I watched Mockingbird Lane, which I really enjoyed. The Munsters wasn't for me. I don't enjoy a lot of sitcoms out there. If you know me, you know that's a thing. Sitcoms really aren't my thing. I definitely enjoyed the Addams Family more, which was out about the exact same time. And again, perfect adaptation. Like again, if Brady Bunch is one, Addams Family Values is like right there, or it's neck and neck basically. So that's another example of TV shows to movie adaptations that worked out really well. And I do enjoy the Addams Family a lot more than I did the Munsters. So I'll always be game for any new Addams Family adaptation. But I don't know if this is something that people were asking for. Not that it needs to be, because again, Rob Zombie made it because he's a huge, huge fan of it. So check it out. I believe it hits streaming here just in the next week now that I think about it. It comes to streaming on September 27th, so in just 4 days now you'll be able to watch it on Netflix, and then it's going to be hitting physical media as well too. So be on the lookout for it. Make sure to like this video, folks, and tell me in the comments how you feel about the Munsters, whether it's the movie, whether it's Mockingbird Lane, or whether it's the TV show. Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, I appreciate you checking out this video, whether it was a review, whether it was a new episode, whether it was an unboxing, an interview, or whatever else. I want to remind you, you can check out my separate reviews also on my YouTube page, and new full episodes go up every Wednesday night on YouTube at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and on your favorite podcasting platforms at 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like and share. My name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.